You believe you've avoided the trap because you've turned your eyes away from the screen, distanced yourself from what many call the obvious corruption. You wear this choice like armor, believing it shields you from decay. But the truth is far crueler, because what's truly corroding you doesn't come in pixels or late-night indulgences. It's quieter, slower. It moves like smoke, invisible and inevitable, settling deep within the corners of your spirit where you never dared to look. And while you're convinced of your strength, something is feeding on the very parts of you that once burned with desire to become more. You see, the most lethal poisons are tasteless. The habits that unravel your life the fastest are the ones that dress themselves as nothing at all. They slip into your day under the pretense of rest, of reflection, of caution. You don't call them enemies because they don't shout, they whisper. And in their whispers, they plant a seed of hesitation, of paralysis. And little by little, you stop moving, you stop trying, you stop believing. You may not notice it at first. The rot doesn't come all at once, but if you pay attention, truly pay attention, you'll feel it. A weight in your chest that doesn't come from effort, but from the absence of it. A tightening in your gut when you pass a mirror or catch a glimpse of your reflection in the eyes of someone who still dares to dream. That ache, it's not regret, it's recognition. It's the last flicker of your instinct, warning you that you're drifting and the tide is not in your favor. You might think this discomfort is proof that you're broken, that something is wrong with you. But no, it's the opposite. That feeling, that hollow ache, it's proof that there's still something alive inside you, fighting against the tide of decay you've mistaken for maturity. Because these seemingly small habits, comfort, overthinking, passivity, cynicism, they don't just steal your time. They steal your identity. They mold you into something you never consented to become. A man who watches instead of acts, who doubts instead of dreams, who analyzes instead of lives. And the worst part, you believe this is just who you are now, that it's your nature, that the fire you once had was childish or unrealistic. So you wrap yourself in sarcasm, in critique, in detachment. You speak with the tone of a man who's seen too much to be impressed. But in truth, you've only seen one thing, your own reflection in the glass walls of a cage you built and called reality. There are men out there, ordinary men, with less intelligence, less opportunity, less everything. And yet, they rise, they achieve, not because they are more capable, but because they dared to step forward while you were still drafting another version of your plan. They moved while you meditated, they built while you doubted, and now you sit in judgment, not because you're wiser, but because you're scared. You call them lucky, you call them reckless, you call them delusional. But what you never call them is what you secretly envy: brave. And so your mind adapts. It tells you that dreaming is foolish, that trying is for the naive, that safety is the highest virtue, and thus a new voice is born inside you, not loud, but ever present. It's the voice of learned cynicism, forged not by trauma or truth, but by the 1,000 tiny moments you betrayed your own promise. Every time you said you'd start and didn't, every goal that faded into excuse, every opportunity that passed as you waited for readiness. And now, that voice no longer suggests. It commands. It tells you not to try, not to hope, not to feel. You think you're being wise, calculating, even noble in your restraint. But you're not. You're simply hiding. And the longer you hide, the more the hiding becomes your truth. You wear it like a badge. You surround yourself with others who nod along, who agree, who laugh at risk and mock effort. A circle of dead dreams cheering each other on for their sophistication, while their lives rot in the basement of their potential. But understand this, cynicism is not insight. It is decay in disguise. It is not born from knowledge. It is born from resignation, And if you let it take root, it will make you old before your time, not in years, but in spirit. It will kill the boy in you who once believed. And that boy, foolish as he may have been, was the only part of you that ever moved mountains. So now you're here, not by accident, but because something inside you still remembers what it felt like to believe. And maybe you're afraid to admit that you miss it, that you miss the fire, that you miss yourself. But don't you see, that discomfort you feel right now, that tightness in your chest, that trembling in your hands, is not weakness. It is your soul trying to shake off the weight of your own lies. No, you don't need another plan. You don't need another course. You need to shut off the endless loop of preparation and step into the chaos, into the unknown, into the shame and the risk and the possible failure, because that's where life is. That's where change is. That's where you are. And don't think for a moment that your mind hasn't noticed the trick you've been playing on it. It knows that every time you plan without acting, you're getting the pleasure of progress without the price. Dopamine for the dream, but no scars for the struggle. And slowly, that illusion rots your will. You begin to believe that thinking is doing, that talking is achieving. And so you stay busy while staying still. It's seductive, it feels good, it feels safe, but it's empty. And one day you wake up surrounded by journals, filled notebooks, inspirational quotes, and nothing else. Nothing real. Nothing you built. Nothing that changed the world or even your own life. Just echoes of potential. Ghosts of ambition. And here's the bitterest truth. It's not that you lacked time or tools or opportunity. It's that you lacked the courage to begin before you felt ready. And now, after all the mental gymnastics, you still end up in the same place, face to face with the one enemy you never could outthink, yourself. So, what now? Will you keep polishing the illusion? Will you keep crafting more elaborate strategies to avoid the simple truth? That the only difference between who you are and who you could be is one decision, one imperfect, trembling, painful step forward? Because in that step, everything changes. Not because the step itself is miraculous, but because it breaks the spell. It proves to your cynical mind that you can still move, that you can still bleed, that you can still live. But make no mistake, you will bleed, you will fail, you will be seen in your imperfection, and yes, it will hurt. But that pain is the price of resurrection. It is the baptism of every man who chooses to rise again. And if you don't, then prepare to die slowly, not in body, but in purpose, in pride, in that invisible realm where dreams go to starve. You will age, yes, but you will never grow. You will live, yes, but you will never become. So stop lying to yourself, to the world. The only way out is through the storm you've spent your life avoiding, and the longer you wait, the darker it gets. What would happen if, for once, you stopped preparing and simply acted? If you let the discomfort sharpen you instead of scare you? If you let failure teach you instead of stop you? Because the truth is, you already know what needs to be done. You always have. The only question that remains is whether you will keep feeding your mind with reasons to wait, or whether you will finally give your heart permission to lead. And when that moment comes, when you're standing there on the edge of the cliff of your own fear, remember this: you were never waiting for the perfect plan. You were only waiting for permission, and that permission was always yours to give. You look around and call it life. You tell yourself, this is just how things are. But if you dig even an inch beneath the surface, you'll find it's not life you're living. It's a well-practiced imitation, a performance you perfected over years, designed not to inspire or provoke, but simply to avoid collapse. You've mastered the art of looking busy, looking stable, looking fine. But inside, you feel it, don't you? That dull, persistent ache that something is missing, that something was left behind, and you're too proud or too tired to go looking for it. So you normalize the numbness. You convince yourself that wanting more is childish, that stability is success, that ambition is a young man's disease. But every time you scroll past someone doing what you wish you had the courage to try, you feel the sting. You hide it behind a laugh, a scoff, a smart remark. But deep inside, you feel the slow burn of unspent energy turning to resentment. That's what happens when potential goes unused. It doesn't disappear, it festers. It grows heavy inside your chest until it hardens into bitterness. And then you become the man who not only doesn't try, but also can't stand the sight of someone who does. Because their courage exposes your retreat, their movement magnifies your stillness. And so, you become a guardian of nothing, a defender of comfort, a gatekeeper of a fortress that holds no treasure. You build walls to protect your fears and call it wisdom. You keep yourself locked in routines and call it discipline. But there's nothing sacred about security that comes from avoiding risk. It's just another disguise, another trick of the mind to keep you from remembering that you were made to evolve. Evolution isn't comfortable. It requires destruction, not of the world, but of your ego, your image, your carefully constructed self-deceptions. You don't need more goals. You need more honesty. You don't need more time. You need more truth. And the truth is, you are not stuck. You are stalled, paralyzed not by chains, but by your refusal to accept the cost of becoming. The cost of real change isn't time or money. It's your comfort. It's your sense of control. And that's why most men never transform. They want the result without the rupture. They want rebirth without the death. But you cannot rise until you're willing to let the old version of you be buried. The one who needed certainty. The one who waited for permission. The one who preferred planning over pain. That man must die if you are to live. And here's where the tragedy becomes unbearable. Most men know this. They feel it in the silent hours, in the moments when the noise fades and the mirrors appear. They know they're delaying the inevitable, that someday the decision will have to be made. But they keep kicking it down the road, hoping that time will bring courage. But courage is not a product of time. It's a consequence of confrontation. It's forged in the moments when you look your fear in the face and walk anyway. When you stop asking how long it will take and start asking how long you're willing to lie to yourself. Because the clock is ticking, not loudly, not with drama, but with the soft cruelty of consistency. And if you're not careful, the days will blur and the years will vanish. And one day you'll wake up and wonder how a man with so much thought so little of himself that he let his life pass unused. That's the real tragedy. Not failure, but the absence of an attempt. Not falling, but never climbing. Not rejection, but the never knowing what might have bloomed if you had simply dared to plant the seed. You don't need perfection. You need to move, even if it's ugly, even if it's clumsy, even if it's small. Because movement breaks the spell. It reminds your soul that you are still alive, that you are still capable of more than your mind dares admit. And once you take that first painful step, once you act, you'll see what the world has been trying to show you all along. That reality bends for those who move. That the doors you thought were locked were only waiting for the weight of your hand. But be warned, once you begin, there is no going back. Because when you taste even a drop of your own untapped power, the illusion of helplessness will forever lose its grip. You'll see the wasted years, not with shame, but with clarity, as the necessary silence before your awakening. You'll no longer need to be told what to do. You'll no longer crave guidance or validation, because you will have found the one voice that never lied to you, never abandoned you, your own. So now you're here again, at the edge, the same edge you've stood at 100 times before. But this time is different, not because the circumstances have changed, but because you've run out of excuses. And you feel it. That line between existing and living, between pretending and becoming, between talking and doing. Cross it. Not tomorrow. Not when you're ready. Now. Because every second you hesitate is another thread in the web of your own making. And one day, if you're not careful, that web will become your home. Your comfort will become your coffin. And the man you could have been will haunt you more than any failure ever could. So don't ask if this is the right time. Ask if you're willing to keep dying slowly. Because that's the real choice. Not between success and failure, but between life and numbness. Between truth and fantasy. Between becoming and remaining. The world owes you nothing, but it will yield to your courage, not immediately, not easily, but inevitably. Because nothing can resist the will of a man who refuses to betray himself again. And that man, that version of you, is already inside, waiting, watching, listening, ready. All you have to do is step. Let me know if you want to continue even further.